All right, welcome everyone. This is George speaking. We'll just give it a few minutes for people to log on, and then we will make a start. Just want to check if Liz is on the call.
Yeah. George, you can hear you loud and clear.
Great. Do you know about Liz? Is Liz on the call? Let me just see.
Liz, let me just see.
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh yeah, she's in.
Hi, Liz.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good.
Good. So we'll just give it a few minutes, and then
Sure.
we'll kick off. Yeah, Nelson, if you let me know when we should kick off, then we'll go ahead. How you doing, James? Yeah. So Nelson and Anthony, if you guys just let me know when to kick off, because I'm not sure, how many people we're expecting. So.
All right. Can we give just a minute or so that
Yeah, sure.
we can have more attendees? All right.
Yeah, no problem.
George, I think we can start.
Okay, thanks, Anthony. Thank you very much. All right. Let me just see who's on the call. Okay, so we've got Thomason, Media, Liz, James Mwangi, I see you. All right. Ishmael as well. Okay, let's make a start. Put my camera on. Hi guys, welcome. Since we're just a few on the call at the moment, if you don't mind just unmuting yourself, nice to say hello. Just for 2 seconds, if you can hear me, just so I know I'm not speaking to my screen.
Yes, I can hear you.
Great,
Hi,
thanks.
hello,
Hey guys.
hear you.
Great. Who was that? Who was that
Hello.
last person? Who was that last person?
It's Tinuke Media.
Oh, Tunica. Hey, hi. Sorry. How you doing? Media. Right. Okay. Who else is on the call?
Hello. Hello.
Yes. Hello. Is that Anthony? Great. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me? This is Tomlinson.
Tomlinson. Hi. How are you?
Very well.
Good. Good. Where are you calling from, Tomlinson?
I'm calling from Nigeria.
Okay. Okay. Which company?
Harry Baker Training Institute.
Oh, great. Great. Welcome. You're very welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. Please,
Okay.
who am I speaking with? Who is speaking now?
My name is George.
George. Yes, I've been trying to reach you all this while.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'll
send a mail to you. Maybe we catch up after the meeting.
Yes, let's do that. Let's do that. Great.
All right. Thank you.
Great.
Hi, George. How are you?
Good. Ishmael. How's it going?
I'm fine. Myself.
Good. Very, very, very good. Very good.
Awesome.
Good. Okay, great. I see Samuel as well. Really, really good. Okay, guys. So we'll make a start. Welcome once again. So today's format, we're just going to do a super quick introduction of PMI. I know 99% of you know PMI already. However, we are getting new trainers coming on board. So, for their benefit as well, I would just do a very quick introduction of PMI. And then we're going to go into the product showcase, which is going to be led by Liz Jordan, who's an expert on citizen development and works in the citizen developer team. And then we'll have a question and answer session after that. Personally, I'm excited about these product showcases because, many people know PMI. Of course, you know that it's a huge brand, but most people know PMI from the point of view of the PMP. And, literally, the world is at a period where the game has changed. And, the PMI has changed with it in terms of being able to provide the skills and the offerings and the solutions to be able to help people move into the next, the next phase of where the world is going. So without much further ado, I'm just going to jump straight into it. Just a quick intro on PMI. So we help people and organizations work smarter so that they can drive the change that they want to see. That's what we say we do at PMI. I'm just checking that my slide is moving. My slide is moved right to the next slide. Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay. So as an organization, we're 51 years old, founded in 1969. And I think that the key thing to note about PMI is that, internally, we're only a few hundred people, about 500 people, but externally, we're over 14 to 15,000 because we have a massive team of volunteers that we work with, and the volunteers are mostly professional project managers who are passionate about the profession and work with us to make an impact around the world. Whether it's doing voluntary or for-purpose projects, or even just upskilling their local communities. At the volunteer ecosystem is a massive part of who PMI is. Linked to that is the chapters, and the chapters are independent legal entities that are set up in each country. Some countries have more than one chapter. In Africa, we have one chapter per country, and it's run by volunteers, and their whole ambition really is to make an impact in their country, to promote the profession, and also just gain more experience themselves. Because we have people at different levels of experience and different levels of maturity. So we have chapters in 20 countries in Africa at the moment, and there's several more chapters that are coming on board. For example, Niger. I was pleased to hear that Niger is coming on board, because it's not a country that I personally hear or come across much in my day-to-day life. So it's great that they're coming on board, and several others as well. So we've got countries in 20 plus. We've got chapters in 20 plus countries. And then also, just a few stats at the bottom there, pulse of the profession. You guys probably know the research that PMI does on an annual basis, the pulse of the profession research, where we research the globe region by region, and then we produce the stats every year. And the stats that came out was that 62% of organizations in Africa have a PMO, and 64% of organizations have ongoing PM training for their staff. Obviously, that's where you guys come into play as our partners, as ATPs. And the final stat there: 30% of the budget is lost if the project fails. So hopefully, if PMI did a good job, and you guys as trainers did a good job in training, then we're saving them at least 30% of waste. This slide, many of you already know. Yes, PMI does certifications, but also if you look down on the left, there's a lot of learning and professional networks. PMI has the largest community of project managers in the world through projectmanagement.com. On the right, we've got the standards and digital products. Well, one of my favorite things there is the podcast series there at the bottom right, Projectified and Center Stage podcasts. And then in the middle, we've got all the certifications that most people know, especially the PMP. And then we've got the new stuff like, PM Ready, Discipline Agile, Citizen Developer, which we're talking about today, WPS, which is about complex problem solving. And, I mentioned the pulse of the profession research that we do every year. And, the data that shows that value delivery, right? When it comes to value delivery, mature organizations perform much better than organizations that are not mature. And I guess you guys as trainers, you see this every day, and being mature means that, your organization essentially is fully trained up across the organization on the skills that it needs to be successful. And as you see there on the screen, that's the data. And it's interesting because as we move from predominantly agile state of being to predominantly waterfall state of being to a more agile state of being, generally, we're seeing that it's no more about either or. Am I a waterfall organization, or am I an agile organization? I think we've come to a point where companies are looking at it a little bit differently, and they have to. It's more about what proportion of waterfall am I, and what proportion of agile am I, because both are relevant depending on which part of the organization you're in. So when you look at the organization, this diagram here is just a very, very high level. Typically, any organization will have, strategic or group leadership. You've got, that's the number one group up there. Then you've got the project leadership, and then you have, different business units or departments, and that's group number 3. And then you have the rest of the organization, support functions and the like. Each of those groups, whoever they are, when they wake up in the morning, there's certain things that first pop up in their head. For group number 1, whether it's the CEO or the head of strategy, they're thinking, gosh, how are we going to execute this strategy? Where is our revenue going to come from? And so where do we fit as trainers and as PMI? How do we help them to solve those problems that come to mind when they wake up? And that's where we have some of the products that we're talking about. This is where the product showcase comes into play. So for group number 1, strategic leadership, who's thinking about executing their strategy or thinking about solving complex problems. This is why we have Brightline or organizational transformation. And then we also have WPS, wicked problem solving, because it's about complex problem solving, and it's about organizational transformation. Group number 2, project leadership. When they wake up in the morning, they're thinking about making sure that they deliver, making sure that the project is executed or the program is executed. And they could be thinking waterfall, they could be thinking agile, and that's why we have PMP and discipline agile. For the various business units, they have their own priorities. They're thinking they've got to get this work done, that work done, that work done. They rely on IT, but IT is also servicing other departments. So they're in the queue. They're not getting what they need because they need a technology solution to execute in the business unit. And that's where something like citizen development comes into play, because it takes the pressure off IT and allows the business unit itself to actually develop the technology solution that it needs. And then the 4th group, which is essentially the rest of the organization. The saying, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So you want to make sure that every link in your organization is strong or is upskilled in some way. Whether we're talking about a soft skill, leadership or communication, or even just a basic project management skill like the CAPM. We want to make sure that we have something for everybody so that the whole organization can be what we call gymnastic. The whole organization is able to move, understand the same language, pivot, change, execute all together without leaving anybody behind, and making sure that they achieve their objectives. So on that note, I think we're going to go into the Citizen Developer Showcase, which is led by Liz. As I mentioned, Liz is our amazing citizen development expert, and she's going to talk you through it. And then after that, we can have a Q&A. So Liz, over to you.
Great, thank you. Let me pull up some slides I'd like to walk through, and then I'll go ahead and get started.
Great.
Okay, I think everyone should be able to see my slides now. So we'll go ahead and jump right in. As George mentioned, my background is I work for FTI Consulting, but I'm a special advisor to PMI on Citizen Developer. And right now I'm leading our marketing efforts as well as our operational readiness. And within that also includes building up our community of PMI citizen developers. So I guess, a good place to begin is always just to introduce the concept of what is PMI Citizen Developer. And what this is, PMI Citizen Developer is a product suite that includes courses, our handbook, certifications, as well as B2B certifications. And within these products, we introduce the methodologies and frameworks that allow individuals and organizations to harness the power of citizen development. So we're not teaching individuals how to use a specific tool, but rather we're teaching individuals and enterprises how to apply the frameworks and methodologies that are relevant to deploying citizen development, regardless of which tool you're using. So whether you're using AppSheet, Power Apps, Appian, OutSys, Embedding Blocks, any number of the tools on the market, the frameworks and methodologies are relevant regardless, and they're what you need to kind of implement citizen development securely and at scale. So in terms of the audience for our product suite, it's really project managers who are interested in using low code, no code to drive project outcomes, and also change makers who want to recommend this as a solution. And I think it's always relevant. There's a lot of talk of some of the platforms or no code or low code solutions have been around for a number of years, but what we're really seeing is an acceleration of adoption in the market. So for example, Microsoft estimates that over the course of the next 5 years, that 450 million apps will be built using low code or no code tools. And then I believe it was Gartner also estimated that the active number of citizen developers will be 4 times the number of traditional software developers by 2023. So that's kind of what our product suite is. But I think what I'd like to do now is kind of jump right in and give you an example of what it means to see citizen development in action. When we talk about deploying a low code or no code solution, what does it actually mean? How does it get started? How does it work within an organization? So what we're going to do now is I'm going to play a short clip from Donna Sarkar, who's with Microsoft, and she is a massive proponent and advocate for the adoption of Power Apps. And she's just going to give an explanation of how bank kind of implemented citizen developer and what a citizen development solution looks like. So go ahead. She explains it best, so I'll go ahead and play this video.
In Sterling Bank's example, the citizen dev who started it all, her name was Foyen Olajide Bello. So she worked in the IT department. She was an InfoPath Forms form over data expert. She's not a software engineer by trade. And the bank brought her a business problem. They said, Foyen, we have 167 bank branches all over Nigeria, and the process is this right now, when we want to move money from the vault to an ATM. So everyone who works at these branches, when they're moving money, they go and write it down in an Excel spreadsheet. They're like, my name is, this is the date, my name is this, here's how much money I moved, save. So every bank branch, 167 branches, had their own Excel spreadsheet. At the end of the week, their job was to mail their own Excel spreadsheet to the central CFO's office. And there's some poor person in the CFO's office whose job it is to consolidate all of these 167 Excel spreadsheets and make sure that the amount of money they have left in the vault is the amount of money this thing equates to. This is not a fun job. And there's always error, always issues. People have overwritten their Excels. Someone forgot to send one. It was just like fraught with issue. So Foyen was asked to solve this problem. So at first she's thinking, how do we do this? And she looks up InfoPath, she looks up forms, all the tools she knows. And then she discovers this thing called Power Apps. So she, in a day, built a Power App, just a form, with a SharePoint backend, which was also something they used in the company. And people were able to just input their information. They said, I'm in bank branch X, here's how much I'm moving, etc. Hit submit, it gets saved to the SharePoint. The same central SharePoint. So at the end of the week, she's able to just generate a report of all the transactions from 167 bank branches. This wound up saving them like 60 hours a week at this bank branch. And of course, she's a hero. People are like, this is amazing, Foyen. How'd you do this? This is magic. You didn't even code. She said, I'm not a coder, so I didn't code. Then next thing you know, all these departments are bringing her problems. HR brings a problem, finance brings a problem, legal brings a problem, and she has problems this big. She said, this is not going to work. So she set up the Citizen Devs Academy. Just at lunchtime on Fridays, this is pre-pandemic, now it's all virtual. She said, whoever wants to join, come join. She had 100 people sign up. And she created a curriculum. She used our Microsoft Learn tutorials, created a 12-week curriculum. Week 1, what is a Power App? Week 2, what is Power Automate? Week 3. And she had everyone bring a real business problem. So the goal was they would have a demo day at the end where each person individually solves their business problem, presents it. So because people came with a real problem, because they walked through a real curriculum, they all left graduates. She's graduated so many classes at this point. So seeing this happen in real time within an organization really helps to convince people. Because saying, oh, citizen dev's a thing and low-code dev's a thing, that doesn't work. It works so much more to have people from these different business units actually participate in these academies and see the business value for themselves.
So again, there's a helpful kind of use case example from Donna. So then it also might kind of be what are examples of citizen development use cases in addition to what she just highlighted. Some of it would include website builds using tools like Squarespace, B2C customer portals or engagement apps. A major one is business process management or kind of workflow automation or operational efficiency apps. This is really anywhere where there's a consistent repetitive process that requires a lot of manual intervention. Odds are that you can build an app to help make that process more efficient. And then customer relationship management apps. Now, I also want to highlight some of this comes up with, if you're saying someone is using a no-code platform, what does it look and feel like? Is it going to look like something that is not up to par, doesn't look as professional as if a traditional software developer was to build it? So I'm going to show you an app right now that was built in Bubble, and this was actually built for our project team So it's an individual on my team who taught himself on Bubble, spent a bit of time learning how to use the app. As you can see in this bottom corner, you can see the Built by Bubble logo. And what he did was, you can see the functionality here. And I'm not going to go into the details of the tool because that's not the most relevant part. It's just more to give you a look and feel of what an individual is capable of building with no coding experience over the period. I think he spent about 2 weeks working on this off and on. But as you can see, there's the ability to track and manage different things. You can kind of click into different tabs depending on role, see where the trend analysis is, operations. You have the ability to enter new outcomes that would require additional tracking. So you can see how if you just here, enter new outcome, that type of thing. If you were a project manager and you had to manage a project and there wasn't, the tools that your organization had available weren't really effective or weren't giving you the information that you need, how amazing would it be to build a tool like this that could help you manage and monitor project outcomes on an ongoing basis? But again, this is just to give you an example of what a no-code platform looks like. What our product suite is not teaching you how to build an app like this. It's teaching you the frameworks and methodologies that you could then apply to building your app. So I'm going to jump back into the presentation. So a common question is kind of why is citizen development important to PMs? And one of it is, and George already started to touch on this in his presentation, was that we know project management as a profession is rapidly evolving. It's become increasingly technology enabled. So learning citizen development is an opportunity for project managers to upskill themselves with kind of a fast moving emerging trend in the marketplace. We also know that citizen development can be used to drive project outcomes. As I was just mentioning, you can build a tool to help you more effectively manage a project from end to end, or you can build a tool that helps you execute a portion of the project itself. Like I said, a very common use case is using building an application that helps with business process management automation. Kind of automating highly manual tasks, or like the example Donna spoke to in her bit where she was talking about is the automation of what was a very manual reconciliation process. And kind of the last big thing is we know that project managers are changed as change makers. So that perhaps if you're a PM, you want to bring this to your organization as a way to execute change, as a way to drive transformation. So in terms of what is actually incorporated within the product suite, as I mentioned, right now we have one course live, which is our foundation course. And this foundation course is appropriate for all levels and is a 90-minute introduction. It's an e-learning course, and it's an introduction to the citizen development best practices and the methodology. And so the 3 modules that it covers are the introduction to citizen development, the citizen development canvas overview, and now the citizen development canvas is really kind of the anchor point and what all of the other future frameworks and methodologies are built off of. And then it introduces the concept of ideation 2.0, which is really how you kickstart or jumpstart a citizen development project. And there's one thing for us to say that's a great course, a great introduction, but actually we've had a number of individuals, including our pilot testers, as well as I think right now we have over 1,500 individuals have completed the foundation course with comments like, this is a fantastic course for anyone who wants to learn the basics of citizen development and how to start transforming your organization with low-code, no-code apps. And at the conclusion of this course, individuals are well positioned to continue their citizen development journey via role-specific courses. And of course, they will earn 2 PDUs for completion. We also have Citizen Development, the Handbook for Creators and Change Makers. I think the easiest corollary for this is that the handbook is to citizen development and citizen developer as the PMBOK is to project management. It's kind of that all-encompassing resource guide that highlights the key frameworks and methodologies for individuals. So it includes best practices around implementing citizen development within an organization. and provides a framework that you could use to scale citizen development. Included within the handbook are a number of tools and methodologies that are applicable to citizen development, and highlighted here are just two of the kind of first ones that you would come across, which one, the product vision board, so how to set up your project and make sure all the requirements are documented. Then it also includes more citizen development specific tools like a suitability scorecard. So we know that citizen development, while it solves a lot of problems and is applicable in a wide range of situations, it's not going to be the perfect solution in every situation, which is why it's important to use a tool like the suitability scorecard to kind of assess the project before going down that route. And then, of course, the next course, which is a role-specific course, it's really for the doers, is the Citizen Developer Practitioner course. And this will be live on the 19th of May, so just a few weeks away. And this is a 5-hour e-learning course that includes a 60-minute exam at the end. Upon completion of the exam, users will earn a micro-credential in citizen development. But really over the 8 modules, individuals will learn how to determine if the problems can be solved using with a citizen development process, effectively brainstorm solutions, evaluate challenges that their app must overcome, gather the data and resources needed, and ultimately bring the product to fruition. So again, this does this over 8 modules, which are kind of outlined here. And then in terms of actually accessing more information about citizen development, if you're interested in the Citizen Developer Product Suite, we do have our landing page where courses in the handbook can be purchased, which is pmi.org/citizen developer. But we also have a community that we're building of practitioners, and it's a great resource area, which is available on projectmanagement.com. And here we include blogs, research, practitioner corner, and kind of shared experiences. So if you're wanting to see a little bit more and understand a citizen developer at the kind of practitioner level and how it works in real life, I encourage you to visit there for additional resources. And then, of course, if you have additional questions on it that weren't answered today or we don't have time to get to, you can always reach out to us at citdev@pmi.org. So that kind of was a real quick introduction and overview of the product suite. So I think now we can open it up to Q&A.
That's great. Thanks so much, Liz. So I'm going to read out a couple of questions, but then if anyone also has questions, feel free to unmute and ask your question. So the first question that I have is, the question reads, no doubt citizen development has a lot of potential, but can you share how to convince organizations that adopting citizen development will not lead to the creation of a shadow IT organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is, I think shadow IT is probably everyone's been burned by shadow IT in the past. I think everyone has that experience of where an organization became reliant on a spreadsheet that only one person knew how to maintain, and then they left and all of a sudden everyone's scrambling to fix it. What Citizen Developer does, and the frameworks and methodologies that are included, kind of help provide guardrails for an organization. So it really talks about how to implement it safely and securely in a scalable way, and how you can introduce kind of controls at the highest level, like via the IT function, so the right governance is in place without constricting the ability to innovate. And I know that is in theory can be difficult for some organizations to grasp and understand. So when we talk about implementing Citizen Developer and kind of convincing organizations of the value, one of the things we often recommend is that organizations start small. So you start with a unique, kind of a discrete business case. So again, going back to the case that Donna presented, it was a single process where there was a problem that needed to be solved. So you start there, you develop a solution, you implement it, you demonstrate the success of it, and you just demonstrate how it's effective, how it can be maintained, how it can be scaled. But you've done it in a very kind of narrow use case and proven its value there. and then you're able to expand and encourage adoption elsewhere. That's how we often find the quickest way into an organization is. And it's kind of like Donna mentioned, once people see how well it works and how great it is, then there's a natural affinity. People want more of it. People want to get on board. But in the process of doing it, you've convinced IT that it's not shadow IT. It's not the experience of the past where it was just unsupervised. It was kind of a wild, wild west situation.
That's great. That's great. I'm going to add my own question to that as a follow-on. The original question was asked by Ola. So my follow-on is, I think you touched on it a little bit, but what is the role of IT in all of this? Or can you speak more about the role of IT in all of this?
Right. So, I mean, IT, and I think this kind of came up in an earlier situation, is citizen development is not replacing IT. And I think that, you know, naturally there's probably some hesitancy around IT when they hear of this, oh, everyone can be a developer. You know, they're thinking, am I being replaced? How is this all going to work? Absolutely, IT is not going anywhere. IT is still integral to the process, but what we understand is that the overwhelming majority of IT departments face a massive backlog, right? They are dealing with enterprise-grade issues at the same time as trying to deal with business user issues. And ultimately, there might be a business problem that really impacts your day-to-day or how effective you are in your job. But when it's put on the IT master backlog, it's always going to fall to the bottom, right? They're never going to have time to get to all of those business user issues. So what we're saying is IT still has a role, one, in the enterprise level issues where citizen development is not the right solution. They also have a massive role in governance and helping to establish the frameworks and methodologies so that citizen development can be effective. But what they're just doing is shifting off their plate kind of those low level items that can be developed using a no-code solution where the business user can kind of take it into their own hands. But absolutely, IT is still integral and is still integral, especially in the upfront implementation, making sure those guardrails are in place and that there's the right security settings, all of that type of thing. You'd look to IT to kind of vet the platforms that are being brought in, making sure that they meet the right organizational standards, that they integrate with other systems, that type of thing.
Yeah, okay, that's great. Thank you very much. The next question is from Ferdinand Furia. To be able to master this app development, does it require a PM with ICT background, with an ICT background?
No, actually, it's when I talk about how quickly you can kind of master some of these skills in it. I mean, it is when you think of traditional software development and learning like Python, Java, any of the other coding languages, you're talking about months, and like even the boot camps talk about you just getting to a basic level over a period of like several weeks. This is much more intuitive. I think the easiest way to think of it is a lot of times the no-code apps themselves are drag and drop functionality. So it's, what do you want it to do? Okay, I want this process to feed into this. Okay, let me drag and literally drop the functionality into a process flow. So as long as you have the mindset of a business user, or that kind of, you understand the logic of what you're trying to do, all of that coding happens in the background. So, you know, each of the apps are different. It takes a little bit of time to get used to using them as a tool. You know, much as you would say about any project management tool, you know, if you're shifting from something like Monday to like a Microsoft tool or to a Google tool, you know, there's a bit of time to just understand some of the idiosyncrasies of it, but fraction of the time to become proficient, to be building, to be actually executing application builds yourself.
Mm-hmm. So what does this mean for skills and jobs? Is this like the next new skill that you're going to put on your CV, or is it not really that? You know, what level is it on?
Yeah, so I think actually the best way to think of this is when you think of looking at someone's CV, you know, maybe 20 years ago, you might have seen like proficient in Access, you know, and then you'd be like, oh, they know how to do Access database management, that type of thing. We see this as kind of, you have your typical business role that you would be doing. Maybe you're an HR function, maybe you're in a finance function, but you also know how to do citizen developer. So it's something that kind of typically supplements the existing skill set. There are some instances where you would hire for specifically a citizen developer type role within an organization, but really it's a way for the everyday business user or project manager to kind of rise to the top of the profile. And that's also too with PMI, one of the key benefits is that it's vendor agnostic. So if you have the PMI micro credential, someone would look at your CV and be like, oh, they know how to apply the right frameworks and methodologies regardless of what platform our organization's using. You know, it's not the same as being certified in just Appian or just Microsoft Power Apps. It's kind of like people look at that and know, oh, you understand at the highest level how to make this work, governance, the importance of making sure you're setting projects up correctly, all that type of thing.
Right. No, that's great. That's great. Ola asked the question. He says, thank you, Jordan. Great answers. Does one need the foundational module to take the practitioner course? And how much is the practitioner course?
Yeah, so in terms of whether you need the foundation course, that really depends on what your level of exposure is. It is not a mandatory prerequisite. However, if you are new to the concepts of citizen development, I would encourage you to take the foundation course first because it helps give you that introduction, really grounds you, as it's named, the foundations of the material, but helps you understand the key concepts like the benefits of citizen development, why you would choose to implement an organization, that type of thing. However, if you already have some exposure to low code, no code, or some exposure to the concepts, you might be comfortable starting in at practitioner. But right now, the practitioner course, when it goes live, will be listed at $249 US.
Okay. That's great. Right, so I want to take a few questions from anybody who wants to unmute whilst you're getting yourself ready. Question to you, Liz. So far, what I've understood is you've got the education and then you've got the platform. You've got, as in PMI, the citizen developer education framework, you know, so like highest level, as you said, then you've got the platform. How do you get the platform? How do you know what platform to go for? How do you match your skills to the platform?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question because of the sheer number of platforms that are out there on the market. We are working with an individual who actually his whole job right now is kind of testing all these different platforms out there, and he's kind of keeping a master list. I think he said at last count that he had identified over 400 different platforms. Of course, these are very different stages of maturity. You know, at one end you have like the Microsoft Power Apps, Google App Sheets, and at the other end you have much more of the startup. But there are a range of different platforms out there, and each of them bring something different to the table. So where you should start, I think, is always identifying your problem first. I think it's helpful to have the business case or the business problem that you want to solve. And based on that, then start looking for the right solution. So you might have, if your solution is centered around, you have geospatial requirements, you're going to want to look to a different app than if it's about data visualization, right? There's going to be different apps that are going to be applicable in different situations. But I would actually encourage everyone, we are actually doing a webinar in June. I believe it's the 19th of June. You can sign up for it on projectmanagement.com. And the whole webinar is actually going to be, it's a full hour on how to choose the right low code or no code platform for your problem. And if it was quickly approaching capacity, but it will be available on demand after the fact if anyone's not able to get into that. But we'll go into it in a little more detail. But yeah, because there is such a range, I always say identify your problem first. And once you have the problem and know what you're trying to solve, then you can start looking to the platform based on what that platform emphasizes as its kind of USP. That's fantastic. Thanks a lot. So I want to open up to anybody who wants to unmute and ask a question or make a comment. I've taken the citizen developer course, and I think this is potentially groundbreaking. From my point of view, I'm hoping to see the next leapfrog opportunity in Africa happen because of something like
citizen developer. I think the potential is massive. Imagine, as we've been talking about, a guy in a company builds an app that solves some serious problems, or even yet still some young guy at a university, and his university has low-code platforms available, and he's able to build an amazing business. I think this sort of levels the playing field, if I could say that. So I'm keen to hear what other people think. I can see on the call we've got Taryn, we've got Deji, we've got Ferdinand, we've got Samuel, Melvin, Innocent is there as well. What do you guys think? Good to hear comments and questions. Don't leave me hanging.
Yeah, well, I'll elaborate on your point about the leapfrog while people are thinking of any kind of comments, because I absolutely agree that it is a real leapfrog moment. Some of these older enterprises are stuck trying to digitally transform legacy systems. Here you have the opportunity to quickly build something up, scale something up without having to transform a legacy. And it's, like you said, it's all it takes is someone with a good idea, and now they can build an application themselves. They can just, a university student, a small business owner, they can truly transform.
100%. It's brilliant. Great. Okay, I can sense some fingers are itching to unmute. Maybe the shy barrier is getting in the way. Come on, guys. Otherwise, we can close the call if everything is very clear. Okay, there's a question. Deji, it looks and sounds like a credible way to deal with the pace of change that we're experiencing. Okay. Sorry, Mike.
Basically, so I'll just
great. Yeah, go for
since it doesn't make sense to you. Well, I mean, the description and the possibilities are worth investigating and actually seeing how it translates, what it translates like in practice. Hey, Wally, what's up, my man? How you doing? So it sounds good. It sounds exciting. Of course, we have to deal with the change in organizations as people are already raising about what's the relevance of the IT department. How are they going to feel about this? So there's got to be, if it's as cool as it sounds, there's got to be the proactive way of introducing this change so that organizations could reap potential benefits. So.
Yeah, I think what better way to introduce a concept than to talk about how it will make your job easier. And like for the IT department, it's no different, because like I said, you're kind of addressing those small items that just sit on the IT backlog forever because something is always going to rise above it, that they can just never work through the full list. So I think in a way, making IT comfortable with the fact of it's not about replacing their function, because like I said, it's not, and it's no lie to say it. It is really just about kind of shifting it, and the way we talk about a little bit of the democratization of the software build process.
Great, that's fantastic.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, so I think we can essentially come to a close. If there's any sort of like last minute pieces of information that you want to share, Liz. Otherwise, I just want to thank everybody for attending. Any last words, Liz?
No, I would just encourage everyone, though, to both check out pmi.org/citizen developer, but also to check out the community page on projectmanagement.com if you want to just see more of those real life examples, more use cases, anything to just kind of help bring it to life for you. That's just a fantastic resource, and we love to see active community members there.
That's great. Thanks a lot. So everyone, we will send a follow-up email, which will include a survey, and it will also include a request for feedback in case you've taken the course already. So thanks for making the time to attend, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. The next product showcase will be next week, and it will be around about kickoff. So looking forward to seeing you then. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.